Justin True, welcome to the Rich Equation podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor to be a guest.
Dude, it's a real honor for you to be here. I'm really excited for this conversation. I did a lot of prep for you. I found you on social media doing some pretty cool things. I love your content. And then I started digging into some of the things you've done, some of the things you're trying to accomplish and you're working on, and just blown away. So I'm just really excited to get into it with you, get into the mental game with you. And before I get into your story a little bit, I think that this episode is I may slow it down a little bit because I think that right now there is a real mental health crisis in the world, in America for sure, but in the world. And I love what you're doing and I love what you stand for. And I think that I'm really interested in digging into the alignment of health, nutrition, fitness, and mental health, and how we can face our demons out there on the trail. So anyways, with that, welcome, man.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, that pretty much hits everything I'm about right there. Extremely kind of you. Thank you for the extremely kind words. I don't know, I just try to do my best every day to be the best me that I can, put back out there to the world and, make it at least 1% better than, before I got here.
Yeah, I mean, what's just for the audience, and people heard it in the intro, but, you're a two-time MMA champion. You've done not even just marathons and Ironmans and triathlons. It's like extreme, 1,000-mile races and 100-mile races of this and that. And what I'm just super fascinated about, and I'm a triathlete as well. Mm-hmm. I've done at least one half Ironman, and a bunch of other triathlons, but I'm just so fascinated with sport and how sport allows us to really get into the deep parts of our brain, of our limiting beliefs and our patterns. And I guess I want to ask you personally, what is this journey about for you? I know everyone has a story that they're facing or what have you, but I'd like to get into your story a little bit today.
Yeah, I would say I kind of grew up doing sports, played basketball for a really long time, and figured out, when you're playing basketball and you got to box someone out. And I was always a big guy, so I always had to try to box somebody out from getting a board. And I realized as I started getting older and kind of dabbling in MMA and doing jiu-jitsu, I always wanted to hip toss somebody as they were coming over. And I'm like, all right, this is probably a good time to get out of basketball, or I'm just going to get, a flagrant foul every game. So I started getting into MMA, and that started kind of unlocking the things in my mind of what's going on, and on a not such surface level, you know what I mean? Really diving into who I am, what makes me tick. And I think just in life, or business life, anything, is you find yourself pinned up against the cage, pinned up against the wall, and you can either lay there and take it, or you can fight back and get off the wall and, start moving forward. And so that's kind of where I started applying that physical sense in life into just my lifestyle in general and in business, is always moving forward and never stopping. And I started segueing out of MMA just because the adrenaline wasn't there anymore. The passion wasn't there anymore. I respected it so much, and I stopped training as hard, but I'd still do fights and I'd still win, or go to tournaments and still compete and win. I was like, all right, I love it. I'm really good at it, but there's people out there who live, eat, sleep, and breathe this sport. And I'm sort of just disrespecting it by not giving it the attention it deserves. And I think, as is when we do something, we need to put our all into it. We need to become obsessed with it in order to make it what it possibly can be in life, which is something great. We shouldn't just half-ass anything. And so I was half-assing the sport, and I needed to get out of it so I could fully unlock my potential in another sport, which turned into ultra endurance events. And so that's where I really started tapping into who I am as a person. And as I just get into life, I start unraveling that layer one by one by one. And who knows if it's always going to be ultra endurance events, but as of right now, that's the answer. And when it's time to pivot and do something different, then I'll find it. But I'm never going to stop moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much of a fighter, but man, you freaking MMA fighters, you guys are badass mofos, man. I mean, I'm really fascinated, and I've been really studying this recently. I was listening to a couple podcasts with Joe Rogan actually about this, and he talks about the 1 second rule. And it's that 1 second where you're pinned down, maybe you're in a chokehold or something, and somebody's about to put you out, and you see, and there's evidence of this, where you see somebody about to tap out, but for whatever reason they don't. Like they move their hand as if they're going to do it, and then last second they don't. And what I'd love to hear from you, because you're in that world, and I think I face this, I think everyone faces this, whether it's in business or life or in their relationships, there's always a place of weakness deep rooted in our subconscious. And when you're fighting life and death like that, and you're facing death, let's call it, in the sake of this example, the mind goes to a certain place where it's like, okay, I'm done, I'm out, I'm and whatever stories, whatever truth that creates, and then somehow the mind overcomes that. And in 1 second time, I'd love you to slow that 1 second down for us, because I think there's a lot of life gold in that. And I'll give you a simple example just for me. And this is a really everyday example. It's the story we tell ourselves when we get out of bed. It's like, do I want to be lazy today? Do I want to wake up at 5 o'clock? Do I want to get outside and go for a run in the 40-degree weather, or jump in the ice bath, or my bed is really comfortable. It's like, if we really make it every day, it's that. But even in MMA, you're talking about life. You guys are training for that 1 second. So I really want to get into this extreme example, because I think there's a ton of gold in there. So
yeah, no, I get chills thinking about it, because it just resonates so much. And I was listening to a podcast recently. I might go off on tangents, so reel me back in here, because there's so much in it. Like
there is, yeah.
That 1 second, there's so much gold within it. But I want to say there was a podcast I was listening to with John McAvoy and Rich Roll. And John McAvoy was one of the most notorious gangsters of all time in England. And he said that when he got out of jail, out of prison, he was on he still is on a life term. But it's weird how he describes life terms. Like, the life sentence doesn't mean you have to be in prison. You can be outside and still have a life sentence. It's weird. But he was saying that when he met successful businessmen and successful, I think you see it a lot in triathletes too. A lot of them are very successful businessmen, because it's a mindset. It doesn't matter what you do, it's a mindset. And he's this prolific gangster, one of the most prolific gangster in England history, the UK history. And then you have all these businessmen he meets. He's like, they have the same mindset as all the other gangsters and criminals I met in prison. And it's this obsession at just being good at what you're good at. And I think it's the same thing, whether you're in the world of MMA or not, whether you're a prolific gangster or you're a businessman or you're an MMA fighter or anything. I think it's this mindset that we all have. We all have this one thing in common, and it's this obsession to just be extremely proficient at what we do and become the best at what we do. And if we don't have that mindset, you're never going to go anywhere. I guess it's that saying of, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Is you have to have that both. You have to have that hard work mentality to where you're going to get out of bed and you're going to get up every day. When that 1 second comes, your bed super comfy, you have to have that hard work mentality of this bed is going to swallow me whole, or I'm going to die, or I need to get up. I need to get up right now. I need to go run that 40-degree weather. I need to go jump in that ice bath. And so to go back into the 1 second mentality of what changes in that second when you're getting submitted, I think it's the hard work that you ingrained in yourself through that daily graft, that grind every single day. It's not just something that you're just born with, that one day you're going to be put in that position where, it's life or death. And not just MMA, but anything, whether you relate that to business or anything. You're not just going to be randomly put in that position. It's going to be something that you have built up to. And I guess my extreme example would be, I had a title fight in Washington, and first round, I get a head kick straight to the head, just bam, And this guy's nickname was called the Bat or Batman. And I was like, or it's called the Bat or something. No, it's called the Bat. And I was like, that's a really weird name. And when you listen to the sound of me getting kicked in the head, it literally sounds, maybe this is just like ironic, but it sounds like somebody hit me with a wooden baseball bat in the skull. Because when you watch over the video, and I still have it, I love it. When you watch over it, you just hear the crowd silent. It's in the first like 20 seconds, just hear. And I'm like, oh shoot. I thought it was someone clapping at first watching the video, and it was his shin hitting my skull. And I shut down, like I collapsed. And I've never been knocked out. I've never seen stars, and my body folds. And then for the next minute, I start fighting. And I'm like, after the fight, I'm like, I have no clue what went on. I got knocked out, like 100% I got knocked out. But for the next minute, I continue to fight and survive and save myself. And I want to say it's, that 1 second where, Joe Rogan's talking about where you're about to tap, like what happens? Where all of a sudden you decide something in your mind, something in your soul just goes, no, we have a little bit more to keep going. Now, I think it's that daily hard work of you just grinding every single day and ingraining it in who you are, where if you take my mind away, my body, my heart and soul is still there and it's not going to stop fighting. And so my head might have shut off, my brain might have went out and I don't know what's going on, but my heart, my soul and my body are still there. And it knows what to do, and it's going to keep moving forward. And I kept fighting. It was like a zombie mode. And that's the only thing I can say is it was day in and day out, repetition after repetition in the gym, that my body knew exactly what to do in this moment. And so, when you're in life,
neural pathways, you created the neural pathways, like your body, mind knew what to do in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I find it interesting that right now, talent alone is not enough. Right? We're in a world where there's so much information and you can learn anything you want so quickly and efficiently, and people are super smart. Talent alone is not enough. You really have to put in work. And I think you're right, whether it's in, fitness or endurance training or even in business, like people hit the brink of collapse in business all the time. And, just like a guy kicking their shin at your head, you're not always in control of everything, but you can train your body, your mind to be resilient and be programmed for that endurance, right? To keep going. And I find myself when I'm comfortable, when I get lazy, I can't take the punches as hard. But like when I do the training and I'm doing the mental work, and it's what I love about the podcast is it helps me stay sharp and speak to great guys like you and remind ourselves that the endurance and the work and the grind is what makes us strong. It's not the intelligence or the the talent. So
yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think nowadays you see with how the world's going is if you just have talent or if you just have hard work and you don't find how to combine those two elements, you're going to drown. As an athlete, I know now that my talent and my hard work just won't suffice. I have to add in this marketing side and this business side to get myself out there and to get opportunities and sponsorships and deals. Is back in the day, it seemed like, it was pretty easy. Like there wasn't very much people in that world, but nowadays there's so many people out there just going out and doing crazy, audacious things that it's like, you got a lot to compete with. And how are you going to be an outlier is basically the real thing. Is how are you going to stand out from the rest of the crowd? And that's being able to connect all those different pillars.
Is your real name Justin True?
Yeah.
That's so freaking awesome, dude.
Thanks,
I love
man.
that. Talk to us about the True Triathlon. You've kind of created this triathlon, the world's longest triathlon. It's a 50-mile swim, 3,400-mile bike ride, and a 600-mile run.
Yeah.
Tell us about the journey of creating this. Tell us about, have you done one yet?
Yeah. So I did it. I did it back in May.
Oh, you did it. Oh my God. Okay. So tell us about why you did it. I want to get into the training of it first, and then we'll get into what it felt like when you did it. But
so basically, I've done a lot of things kind of over the last 2 years. I'd say 2018 and 19 were extremely busy years. That was my years of kind of segueing out of MMA and joining like the ultra world. And the world started kind of shutting down from COVID, and I was in the gym and I was going for a strongman feat that I'm trying to get back to now. which is lifting the Dinnie stones in Scotland. And combined, they're 733 pounds. So this was my whole goal. So back when the world started shutting down with COVID, I couldn't go to the gym anymore. So I just started running. And it was the only thing I could do to stay active, right? Like, I think my mind and kind of what you said is about, we need to release those endorphins and get that blood pumping, get the sweat going. And like that, just, there's so much about it in life that, having a healthy life is so multifaceted. It's not just mental health, physical health, everything. So I just started running. I've never ran before. That was January 2021, I believe. Yeah, 2021 was when this all happened. And by March, I did my first 60-mile run just for fun. Somebody said I couldn't do it. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to set out and I'm going to do it. So I went and ran 60 miles in like 11 hours.
Are you kidding me?
I trust me, I paid the price after. That was one of those things where it's like.
So you were never a runner, and no. Within 6 months, you ran a 60-miler.
2 months.
Dude, what is wrong with you?
I was so used to running, like, if I ever ran for MMA, it was like 3 miles, maybe 5 miles at most I ran. And so 2 months later, that was January, I started running. March, I ran the 60 miles. I paid the price, had to recover a lot. I got really badly messed up, which is, I think, a blessing in disguise, because now I learned how to, not just rehab, but prehab for all this, which I think is huge when we get talking into training, is the prehab is so utterly important for these kind of events. So I just started kind of shooting an idea around my buddy, who has kind of been, I fought with him a bunch back in the day training, and threw out this idea of, running, biking, and, we're already 2/3 of the way there. Why not swim? And so I wanted a plan that somebody was going to say, like, you're going to die. And I'm like, all right, perfect. Let's see. Let's see how this goes. Like, I want to plan that people think is utterly impossible, and there's most likely you're going to die. I started looking into it. There's a triathlon that was across the U.S., but he was swimming in, I think, Lake Okeechobee. So it was a lake. And I'm like, all right, still, that's impressive. Like, it's a long swim, but I want danger. I want to overcome everything the world has to offer. Not overcome it. I just want to experience it. I want to be out in Mother Nature. I want to be I want to just be humbled. I want to jump into this ocean that I take for granted, and I underestimate. I underestimate so many things in life because I think naive is bliss. That's probably why I could go run 60 miles, because I didn't know what it felt like to run a marathon. You know what I mean? Like, if I ever ran a marathon, I would go, no way can I do 100, because that would hurt. But I'm naive. I don't know what 60 is. So I just went and did it. And so I've never done a triathlon ever. So, well, I did, but it was with a weight on my back, and that was a whole different story. I've never done an Ironman. Had I done an Ironman, signing up for a 3,600 mile triathlon or creating one, I'd be like, whoa, there's no way. I know what it felt like to do 140. Well, I'm just going to make my base standard 3,600. So I'm just going to make that my everyday.
So ignorance served you in that way. Like, not knowing what an Ironman felt like, you didn't have that. That's really interesting. You didn't have that glass ceiling.
No. And you think about the limitations that the limitations that society puts on us, that, hey, 140 is the hardest thing. Well, who started at 40?
Yeah, you started at the 4-minute mile.
Yeah, like, who, what if Ironmans just were 200 miles? We would have put that as the ceiling. And so we just have this societal limitation on us, from the beginning. And I'm like, well, I don't know that. I've never been in the ultra world. So I'm not going to listen to anybody. My mom will tell everybody that I don't listen. So it worked out for me. Everybody goes, you can't do this, you can't do this. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. So,
all right. So what were you hoping to find within by doing that?
All the other events I'd done for the prior years were always in regards to helping somebody else. Raising funds for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society with the fire department back in my hometown, Make-A-Wish Foundation. I have a buddy who is from Palestine, and he got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go to college in Canada, so we raised his tuition there. Like, it was always for everybody else. And then world shut down. I had this plan for this triathlon, but I just needed something. I needed something to motivate me to do it. And my own self-gratification to be like, oh, I did it, was over. I had that time in MMA and stuff. And even then it wasn't about me. It was my team that got me there. And so my own like self-fulfillment wasn't going to be enough to push me through this triathlon. I needed something much deeper to get me there. And so that's where I started realizing like my mental health has always been a gigantic motivator in my life. I just always swept it under the rug and never talked about it. So it finally hit me. I was like, hey, why don't I just do mental health? It's something I can talk very, very passionately on because it is my life. It's what I deal with every single day. So that was my big motivator for it, is I want to be able to stand up for everybody who doesn't feel like it's cool to talk about mental health, or, you know, you're a wuss for talking about it, or, you know, you need to suck it up and get over it, or you're not tough. It's like, listen, you can be like a bad dude and do all these crazy things that are sick and still, you know, talk about your feelings, open up. And we see it so much in today's news. You know, there's like some incredible people that we see, you know, taking their own lives, and we're like, why, you know, how can we open up that line of discussion further so these people don't feel like that's their only way? And we're starting the triathlon and being more open about more transparent and more open about my struggles. The messages that started flooding in were incredible, they were heartwarming, very heavy. Some days in the triathlon, waking up and looking at my Instagram, and somebody's like, hey, I wanted to kill myself yesterday, and I knew at least I can wake up tomorrow morning and see you running 50 miles on a broken foot. And I'm like, how is this even comparable? Like, you're suffering with this darkness inside, but yet you think me running with a broken foot is equivalent. Like, I just wanted to prove that no matter what pain I'm going to go through physically throughout this journey is nothing compared to the mental darkness and pain that we deal with mental health and depression and suicide ideations. Like, that is so heavy and so painful that it's nothing compared to a broken bone that people might think a triathlon's hard. Like, oh man, the physical body can go through so much. It's the mental game that we need to focus more on. We have all these training programs for couch to 5K and Ironmans and ultra Ironmans, but we have nothing that helps us with our mental fortitude. And so that was where I really wanted to kind of give people an assistance with and show people, listen, you can train like an absolute knucklehead and still complete something incredible as long as like your mind and your heart is in it.
Yeah, you talk about the comfort crisis. What's the comfort crisis?
Laying in your bed in the morning when that alarm goes off at 4 a.m. Nah, man, I don't need to get up right now. I'm doing all right. I'm comfortable. I'll sleep until 5. I'll hit the snooze button one more time. Like, it's a comfort crisis, man. We need to get up. We need to get moving. Like, we're not meant to lay in bed all day. You know, we're meant to get up. Like, I'm not this person where I think like sleep is for the weak. I remember saying that back in the day when I fought. Like, sleep is absolutely important and optimal for performance. Like, I know it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary. So, you know, this whole primal or, toxic masculinity of sleep is for the weak needs to get out of there. Get your sleep as you need, but, you know, prioritize your time better. Have a routine, you know, one of your pillars, have a routine. I know that is paramount in my life, and staying just mentally on point with things is having a routine. As frantic as my life is with traveling, I always will have a routine. My alarm goes off at 4:30 a.m. every single day.
Yeah, I find that you're right in that, you know, the mind's a dark place, the mind's a scary place. The 6 inches between our ears can create a lot of damage. And it's important to give language to what's going on in there, right? Learning how to talk about our feelings, maybe learning how to be vulnerable, learning how to listen. But there's something about putting your shoes on and just banging out 10 miles or banging out 50-mile bike rides or whatever, that, I don't know, maybe it's like a meditation. Maybe it's something that like gets you into those places of things that maybe you wouldn't do in silence. Is that true for you? Do you find that exercise or doing these extreme workouts or races push your mind to that place to face those demons?
Yeah, I see that gives me time to unlock different sectors of my mind and to explore different ideas, different, entrepreneurship avenues of what I want to be able to do. And I listen to podcasts. I use that time. Sometimes I just listen to, throw on some gangster rap or some like house music or music I don't even like. I just throw it on and listen to it, or There's times where I listen to literally a 24-hour run. I'll listen to podcasts, I'll listen to audibles, anything to be able to teach myself and, better myself 2% better at a time. Not only am I physically training, but I'm mentally training. And so the second I get onto a computer or in front of my phone or tablet, I can bang stuff out. And I know that if the workday requires me to put in an 18-hour day, I can do it because I know I can run for 46 days straight without stopping. Like it's showed me that I'm so much more capable of anything. I never thought I'd be someone who ran a 46 day triathlon across the United States. Like, what else am I, holding myself back from? Like, what if I want to start a business? Let's start a business. What if I want to start a charity and give back? Let's do that. We can do whatever we want. We just got to set our minds to it.
So tell us about the True Triathlon. I mean, how long was it really? How long did it take you? Tell us about how long you trained for it. Let's get into the triathlon.
So like I said, I started running in January 2021, and I had set it out for May 2021. I didn't know how to swim really. I thought I knew how to swim.
Within 5 months, you wanted to do this?
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't. Spoiler alert, I didn't do it that month. I didn't do it that year. But so I had set it out. I thought I knew how to swim. I didn't. I knew I could make it a mile in about 50 minutes, but not in a thing of to keep my hair dry because I like my hair, but that's how bad I was at swimming. I would be like one of those boats, like the old pirate ships with the maiden on the front. That was my neck. I'd swim like that, and I'd make it 50 minutes in a mile, and I'd be dying after. I'd be just huffing air, heartbeat 180, and I'm like, I can swim. And I figured out that I couldn't once I started getting into a pool and started recording it. So basically I got a hold of a triathlon coach and said, listen, I'm not worried about running. I can run. That's pretty easy. Biking, I biked when I was a kid. So I'll bike again just a little bit further. I just want to learn how to swim. Just make me an animal in the water.
You're just pure brute force, aren't you?
Yeah, it's pretty much just like a sea lion. Just turn me into a sea lion. I need a lot of fat so I float. And then I was about 205 pounds. I'm 6'4", so I was 205. And she's our first meeting together. She hasn't seen me swim or anything. And she immediately, I don't know if she's as nutty as I am or whatnot, or she sees it in me, but she's like, all right, let's do it. I'm like, do you want to see how I swim first and then make your decision? She's like, nope, I've heard all I need to hear. Let's do it. So she was all in from day one, which is awesome. And that was an incredible belief and confidence to me that I think that is also something that goes into all this is having people surround you that
believe in you. Yeah. And push you.
Yeah. And another one of your pillars, you need people and you need community around you, good people to push you and to train with. And so basically the triathlon was supposed to happen in May. It didn't. I was working with a production group that they're like, hey, listen, we want to build this up to what it should be, and it will take a year. And that was heartbreaking for me because I'm someone where I hear it, I'm going. I don't care. I'm going to do it. And I think I would have done it anyways. It would have just taken me 3 months to do it. But we pushed it off a year. I took a year off of work and just trained. All I did was swim. I swam 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on. My sessions would be, day one was a 6-hour swim, and then a 4-hour swim on day 2, and then the third day was a break, and then 6 to 4 break, 6-4 break. And sometimes I would just get in a pool, and literally some of these swims were in a pool, and I was down in San Diego training at one point, fall of 2021, about this time last year. And I remember I hopped in the pool, and I don't know what it was, but I swam for 8 hours straight, and it was at this resort. And so people are constantly coming by what are you doing? And I'm like,
what's that guy doing?
Exactly. So it was cool, man. That was the most therapeutic thing, was swimming. But it was also really tough because, as you know, if you're angry, you can run angry. You can put on some hardcore rock and just jam out and run angry when you're angry. And I'm training 16 hours a day almost, something. It's always either biking or lifting or swimming or mobility or yoga. It was something. Or rowing. And so sometimes I just get angry. I'd wake up and know how my body feels, and I have to go hop in a pool. You tell me how you swim angry. You can't swim angry. And so it teaches you to kind of like,
you have to swim relaxed.
Yeah. So it was tough because
wow.
I just, I guess this goes back into my childhood, but like I just had a really kind of like really aggressive, rough upbringing, violent upbringing, let's say, that helped with MMA, obviously. But I like releasing that in me, and I couldn't do it anymore. So it taught me a lot how to tame that side of me for the time being. And I'd make deals with myself where I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go lift first. I'm going to go deadlift. And then I'll go deadlift, blow out my body there, and then go swim. And just swimming for 8 hours straight of like, it's cool. It's like one of those flip books that you used to see with people drawing on them, and you like flip through it, like, that's how I saw life for 8 hours. Every time I stroked, I'd just see somebody and I'd see them again. And there'd be a big screen over there playing like Thursday night football. And it was that thing of seeing everybody enjoying themselves, having these mojitos, having these margaritas and pizza, and they're all on vacation, kicking their feet up. End up talking to one guy who has an RV and he's got an airplane. And I was like, yeah, my airplane is in my RV. And I'm like, it's just these conversations I had with these people who are so wealthy and so, I don't know, like successful. And then I see like what I'm doing. I was like, this is my version. Like if I want to ever get to this point where I have my own plane in my RV, like parked inside of it, then like I need to keep doing this. And that was what I was telling myself. I was like, I came from a really poor background and I'm never.
Oh, that's really interesting because, you think that when you're training, you're on your own, but you're like literally training for 8 hours, watching people in their comfort life.
Mm-hmm. Watching them in their comfort crisis or just what they've been able to earn. I don't feel I've earned that yet. I came from a really poor upbringing where there's nights I slept outside. There's nights I went hungry. I'm not going back there. And when I have a family, there's no way that's happening. And so when I see all these people living that, I'm like, I'm going to give my kids this. I don't want my kids to live that comfortably, but like, I want them to be able to have the opportunity to do whatever they want, to where they don't have to drown themselves for 8 hours in a pool, get up, go eat garbage at Walmart. And I mean, my diet was a gallon of chocolate milk and like pizza from Little Caesars. Like I was on the most budget diet in the world doing this. I get during training. Oh, my diet was terrible. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it, man. I had to go to work at one point in, where's this at? It was in Connecticut. And my work rents the cars and they give us per diem. And I don't think they'll listen to this, but basically I would sleep in my rental car, and I'm a 6'4", guy, I'm pretty big. And I would sleep in a small little like 4-door sedan. And I had my wetsuit in the back. I worked for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for a month. I would go work for 12 hours. I'd shoot down to the beach in Connecticut. I'd hop in the water. I'd swim for 4 hours till sunset. And when the jellyfish came out, I got hit a couple times there, jellyfish off the coast of Connecticut. I didn't realize that. And then I would get out. I'd take off my wetsuit as I'm driving to the gym. I would throw my wetsuit in the back so it would dry off while I was in the gym, and I'd start rowing because I would be like, well, I swam for 4 hours and my protocol said 6 hours. So I need to go row for 2 more hours. And this gym was a little mom and pop gym. And they were like, hey, we're closing up. And I'm like, all right, do I need to leave? They're like, no, man, like we've seen you here. All you do is row. Like you never get off of it. There's times where I would row for 6 hours, like a stationary rower.
Wow.
I listened to a lot of Tim Grover. I also watched, what was that one movie on Netflix where they were killing each other? I don't know, it was really popular. But I watched the whole series of that. It wasn't Hunger Games. I can't remember what it was. It was the Japanese one.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I did everything of just mind-numbing exercises to where when it came game time where I had to swim for, 3 days, 4 days, I could do it because I'm so used to just being by myself in my zone. And these people gave me the keys to the gym and they're like, hey, just lock up when you leave. Like, we know you're not going to do anything. All you're doing is rowing. Like, just lock up. And I'm like, sweet.
So you really did swim 50 miles?
Yeah. So it was supposed to be from the Bahamas to Florida, but with COVID going on, I couldn't get the passes of like the COVID tests, to go from, we had teams coming from England, a videographer coming from Australia, 2 people coming from California and Oregon. So it just wasn't gonna be possible to get the COVID test to go over and then come back. I would have to swim at because your COVID test while traveling only lasts for 3 days. So I would have to make the trip in 3 days. 100 miles in 3 days wasn't gonna happen. So, and trying to find a captain that was crazy enough to let me swim across, the Gulf Shore, across the Bermuda Triangle. So we ended up changing up and going from Key Largo to Miami. And that ended up being a 3.5-day swim. Kicked a shark.
Day and night.
Yeah, no. So I couldn't go night again.
Okay.
It's one of those
so you just stop in the middle. You just take a break in the middle of the night or whatever.
Yeah, so we pinpointed our GPS and I'd go to sleep. And then in the morning I'd hop back in and go. I would have loved to go overnight because it's one of those things. If you listen to the podcast that I did a year ago, terrified me to swim at night. And I wanted to do it more than anything because I know how much it scared me. Because I think that's what we have to do.
Face that fear.
Face that fear. Like, we can't be comfortable. The comfort to me is swimming in a pool or swimming in an ocean. That's comfortable. Like, I don't want to be in that comfort crisis. I want something that scares the daylights out of me, and that's swimming at night. And so I really wanted to do it, but I couldn't. The captain has the final say, so I couldn't do it.
So then you did a 3,400 mile bike ride that sent from Florida all the way to San Diego is 3,400 miles. That's
it was 3,000 by the end of it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And how many miles are you biking a day?
I wanted an average of 200. I think I got just shy of that. There was, I think, 2 days where I got like really, really poor mileage. One day where I want to say, I think there's a 24-hour break. I think in West Texas, I can't remember if I took a full day off or not. I got heat stroke and I got food poisoning at the same time. I think they played hand in hand with each other. And so that really put me off the bike. I made it halfway through the day and then I had to get off. And then I think I started the next night at like midnight or something because it was like 110 out. And so I was just like, hey, I need to start at night because I couldn't hydrate. I couldn't get food down or anything. But I'd say the key points of the swim to dial back to that is day 2, I kicked a shark. And on the 4th day, I saw 2 Portuguese man o' war, kind of like a couple like yards away. And then, a minor thing, our little skiv or patrol boat that would like videotape me ran over me at one point because the waves were so gnarly on day 1 and 2 that they were just saying like I'd go to swim and there'd be nothing here. There'd be no water. I'd be on the side of a wave. And so the boat kind of came over and when I went to go swim, it just hit me on the backside. And it was just, whatever could go wrong did go wrong. And so, yeah, I don't know, it just adds to the experience of it really. And then day 2 of the bike, I got hit by a car. Luckily I saved the bike and I just ran into the car myself. I jumped off and kind of flew into it. And then, yeah, that kind of brings us to getting sick in Texas.
So what happened in Texas?
Basically just the food poisoning. Yeah.
So how was your body doing? It took you over 40 days. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it took me 46. Yep.
46 days. How was your body doing and where did you maybe start feeling fatigue?
None really. I think the fatigue came later. So my training, like I said, was all swimming and all lifting. I power lifted the whole way. I lifted 3 days a week, squat, deadlift, and then shoulders for swimming still. And those I power lifted the whole time. And so like I was saying, I was lifting for a strongman event. So I think my deadlift was almost up to 500. And so my thought was I want to get my legs so incredibly strong that I won't deteriorate. I don't have to spin all day and build up this lactate threshold. I will later on in the day doing like HIIT cycles, but for training, I want to be able to increase my FTP. So that's where my strength training came in. It was like, I would cycle with people and they'd be like, it doesn't even look like you're pedaling. Like you're pedaling a couple times and you're going 20, 25 miles per hour.
Because you had so much power in your legs.
Yeah, that was my thought of it. I'm just, I guess, like a meathead is what I think of it. Like by the start of the race, I was 235 pounds, 230 pounds.
Wow.
So I was eating my
big
coach
heavy dude for a triathlon, right?
Well, so here's my thought with it. When you come to my coach, what she said is when the first day we met, she's like, I want you to gain 15% body fat, or maybe it was 5 or 15. I can't remember. But it basically was like 25 pounds of fat because You're going to be out in the ocean, and even though it's warm water off the Keys, it's still below your body temperature. So your body temperature is going to drop, and that can go hyperthermic if you drop like 2 or 3 degrees. So the point of gaining all this fat was 1, insulation, and 2, I can float better. So I would be more buoyant in the water, and I'd be more insulated. And then all the muscle would create a thermogenic effect to keep me warm. So that was our point with swimming, is I was eating minimum 12,000 calories a day. Training
12,000 calories. Jeez.
So sick. I went to bed every night with the worst gas, so sick every single night. And that's where we come into routine. If I didn't wake up at 4 a.m., if I slept until 9, I wouldn't be able to hit my calorie goal because there's no way I could fit that in. And so I would just eat incredible amounts of food. And that's why my diet, not had to be bad, but there was a huge portion of junk food because you can't eat that much fruit and vegetable. So I would just eat anything I could at any point.
I think it's really interesting. Not a lot of triathletes do enough strength training. Mm-hmm. And you're saying that you did almost only strength training.
Swim and strength training. I hardly cycled and I didn't run at all.
And were you training in a specific, were you training in like zone 2, zone 3 to keep heart rate low, or not? Yeah. Did that even, it was no heart rate training either?
With swimming, I needed to get my technique down in order to keep that heart rate lower. Because at first it was like, I got a good baseline of it where I would swim, 45 minutes and my heart rate would be 180, 160. Yeah. And I was like, by the end of it, I could swim a 5K and my heart rate would be 120 to 115 the whole time. And so it was just becoming more efficient in that movement pattern. I think that's the hard part, is being such like a meathead and love lifting, was really trying to not muscle the water every single time. So that was the big thing, is to learn how to finesse everything. When it came to fighting, came to basketball, like I said, I've always been somebody who I just tried to bulldoze through everything. And so I needed to learn how to finesse swimming, because that's really you can't muscle that. So you can muscle the bike and you can be stubborn through the run, but you can't do that with swimming. So that was basically the big thing, is I was working with 1, training for this event, 2, funding the event, which also took away from a lot of time training of trying to find sponsors, anything. And then being able to manipulate my weight. So that was like you said, my favorite thing with sports is the sports science and nutrition, is manipulating my weight. So I wanted to be 230 at the start of it, as fat as possible to be like a sea lion. And then when you get to the bike, it was perfect because 50% of the country is flat, from Florida up till midway through Texas to Austin is all relatively flat. So I'm this, 230 pound person at the start. I wanted to drop at least 15 pounds by at least 10 pounds on the swim, which is definitely doable. Start the swim at 220, or start the bike at 220, lose 15 over that point because it's all flat. So at that point, I'm still very strong on the bike. It's all flat. I can just power output, bam, 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 crank over. And I had this huge FTP going across country. And by the time I hit West Texas, which is hill country, and then from hill country all the way to the San Julian Mountains, or Julian Mountains, west of El Centro, California, is this 0 to 4,180 foot climb, I believe. That's the end of the hill, basically. So from West Texas to there is this massive incline. So you look at Tour de France cyclists, right? They're all skinny. So you want to be skinny climbing hills. So I'm going to manipulate my weight all the way across country to when I hit West Texas, I'm lean and I'm 205. And then I can start climbing. By the time I hit New Mexico and Arizona, I'm going to be 200. By the time I hit San Diego or, east of that, I'll be, ideally 200 pounds, if not just under. And I was so used to being heavy that when I did run at 205 prior, I felt so light. So I'm like, man, I'm going to be the lightest I've ever been starting the run at 190, 195 is ideally where I want to be. So I'd start the run at 195. And then from there, I would just, whatever happened, because I'm so used to moving and just walking. When you think about doing ultra endurance events, you're used to being, basically all that matters is time on feet. So I'm time on feet with basically a 40-pound weight vest on me at all times. So I take that off and I start a 600-mile run. My body and that endurance built up in my legs is going to be great. That's why I didn't run training for it, because I'm going to be off my feet for basically 4 weeks. You know what I mean? So why
I know what you mean intellectually, but what you're talking about is mind-blowing stuff, man. I mean,
so to be off my feet for 4 weeks, it didn't make sense to me to train running if I'm going to be 40 pounds lighter, and any endurance that I built up is going to be gone from the swim and from the bike. I'll just have to grind it out, was basically my, theoretically, that was my thought process.
46 days, just mind-blowing, man. I mean, and you had to sleep through it. I mean, the nutrition, there's so much information in here on how and what and the science of everything. How did you feel when you were finished?
Honestly, not that great.
What? So let's get into that. What happened? Because I think there's a lot of magic in that, right? Like chasing this big, audacious goal and then finishing it, and then like, that's it?
Yeah, there's video of me at the end where we finish. We didn't even get a picture at the end. Like, there's no celebration of like, hey, let's all get a picture. It was like, I was like, all right, like, let's just go. I just want to get out of here. We're standing on the other end of the Golden Gate Bridge, the north end. And I'm like, all right, let's go. And they're like, you want a picture? I'm like, no, I just want to get out of here. Like, I don't like attention on me. I don't like people focusing on me and just everybody looking at me. I'm like, can we just stop? Can we just leave? Like, stop looking at me. Like, let's just go. I don't like being the center of attention. I guess, like I said, I didn't do it for me. I did it for this cause. And to get all the congratulations of it is really weird to me. And
yeah, but you had to put the shoes on. You had to be in the water, my friend. I mean,
I know.
So I know you didn't want the attention, but how did you feel about yourself maybe? Did you feel like, did you believe that you were able to do this the whole time?
I think I did, and that's why I wasn't excited when I finished, with fighting. I trained when I used to fight, I'd go to bed every single night, and I would dream of, I'd go to bed, I'd fall asleep to every scenario in my mind. There was one fight where it was a title fight I had in Washington, and this guy had 5 first-round finishes all by armbar. And so I went to bed. I actually went into that fight with a torn meniscus. And I went to bed every night thinking, all right, like, this guy catches my arm. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. This happens. All right, he breaks my arm. What happens? And actually in the first round, he broke my arm. He tore everything in my left arm. Like, probably 3 times he snapped it in half because I just put it back and it just ripped. All the tendons in my arm ripped. And in MMA, if you even go, it's a verbal tap and you quit. So he broke my arm. Like, you only break an arm once, but he ripped on it 3 separate times. And I just kind of bit down on my mouthpiece and just stayed quiet. And then I went back to the corner. I told my coach, my buddy Alex, who I messaged about the triathlon, and I was like, hey man, my arm's broke. And he's like, yeah, I know. So what we're gonna do, you're gonna go out there, you're gonna punch him in the mouth, we're gonna knock him out, and you're gonna go home. And I'm like, all right, cool. So went out there, 6 seconds, planted him. Eyes rolled into the back of his head, knockout, win, went home with the belt. And it's because I planned for that every single night. I planned for the worst possible thing to happen every single night. Don't think about what can go wrong. Think about what can go wrong and think about how you can make the most out of it. And so every night I went to sleep before the triathlon, the finish was in my head every day. But not just before the triathlon, but during it. Every single step, I just imagined the finish, imagine the final outcome, down to who was going to be there at the very end. And I had this weird thing of, this guy's like my dad. He's like kind of like my fill-in dad. We never talked about him being there at the finish. And I knew in my mind, he was going to be the very first. My mom was there, my grandma was there, my aunt was there, my brother, everybody. I knew this guy was going to be front and center right when I finished. And I remember this point in just, I think, north of Santa Barbara. I remember being on the side of the highway. My left foot is broken. I have a tear in my right foot, in my right big toe tendon, and I have a hole in my left foot on the bottom, about a 1/4 inch deep. And I'm in so much pain, and I start screaming on the side of the highway, just, and I start screaming, I start running. And I don't care how much it hurts. I'm just embracing this emotion and this fire and this passion into me that I've trained this long. I'm not giving up here. I'm not stopping here. I know this person is going to be at the finish because I've dreamed about it every single day. I started crying on the side of the highway as I'm sprinting. And as I crossed the finish line, like a week later, he's right there wearing the same exact clothes that I imagined a week before, 2 weeks before. I pictured everything every single day that when I finished that line, I'd already been there a million times. It wasn't anything special. I knew I wasn't going to fail. I knew I'm going to succeed at anything I put my heart and my everything towards. I know I'm going to win. I know I'm going to finish. There's no doubt in my mind I'm ever going to give up with anything, whether it's cage fighting or ultra events. So what am I to be surprised about? What am I to be happy about? I did what came here to do, and that was to raise awareness on mental health and like show what we're ultimately capable of when we do stuff for the right reason. And so afterwards, I was actually in a very dark place because I didn't know who I was anymore. Like for 2 years, this was my plan. I built this up for a year and a half. I built this up. It was it was everything to me. And now it's over. And I didn't have this whole like, this huge moment, you know, it was just done. And my life was back to normal and my body was broken. I didn't know how to recover from it. It took me till about 2 months ago to finally be able to like fully comprehend everything that went on.
I mean, there's a lot of gold in all of that. I really appreciate you sharing, because I think, you know, what's fun about your story and your journey is it just shows you the resilience of the mind. I mean, your physical body, you put it through absolute torture. And you didn't, until the end of that little segment there, you didn't really talk about pain the whole time. And you cannot train, you cannot run these distances without feeling pain. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Your body is excruciating. It is screaming at you, telling you to stop every moment when you're running or swimming or biking at these distances. And what I love about your story and what there is to learn here is that, you know, programming the vision of the destination, it's so powerful. It almost makes the journey, it just helps you plow through the challenges and the obstacles of the journey so much better when you have such a clear vision. Yeah, such an amazing story, man.
Yeah, it does. And I think you eliminate the stress of, am I going to finish?
What or the doubt. It eradicates doubt, right?
Yeah, all you have to do is focus on the here and now, which, like you said, freaking hurts. Like my foot hurt. My foot was bent at a 90-degree angle for about 2 days. I actually had to go on crutches up the coast of California for, you know, it lasted for 10 minutes. But like, I was like, I can't walk. I couldn't feel my foot. I've lost about 30% nerve damage in my foot from it. I transcended all of that. And I remember seeing the Golden Gate Bridge, and I don't know who picked, myself, like to end on the hilliest country or hilliest city in the country. Like that was the worst city to finish
that
on.
segment of running in America, I've run that segment too. It's mind-blowingly hilly.
Horrible. And I remember walking up to the bridge and my body was melted. Like I couldn't feel, I felt like I was going to collapse seeing the bridge. My body, I think my mind had finally go, hey man, we're here. We did it. Shut off. And it was so close. I feel if I would have just like closed my eyes, I would have passed out because my body had finally just gave up and was like, hey man, we're done. And I kept telling everybody, when I hit the bridge, I'm going to sprint. And they're like, are you going to sprint? Like, how are we going to set up the cameras to follow you? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, be realistic. Like 599 miles in, you gauge what sprinting is. Like, you guys are probably going to keep up with me. I hit the bridge and I was sprinting. And all of a sudden I get a phone call and I'm like, who's calling me at this time? At this time, who's calling me? Why? I feel like everybody should know what I'm doing. And so I pick it up and it's my buddy Hector. And he was running the bridge with me. And I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, dude, you got to stop. Like, you lost everybody. And I'm like, oh, shoot. So I had to stop. Like, all of this pain. My foot was broke. My tendon was torn. Like, I have a staph infection all down my legs. That's excruciating. I went to the emergency room. Like, all of this. And all of a sudden, by the end of it, it was like, I didn't feel a thing. I sprinted the bridge and all of it was gone for that moment. Like I was out. It was like this out of body experience for this next mile across the bridge. It was so weird, and I can never. I don't know. It's hard to even like describe of what takes your body to that point of just like there's no more pain. Like you were in this like other world, like this. You transcended that pain in that physical body just to get this task done, and I think that's what it looked like to give your all to something.
When did you end up finishing the race?
I think it was June 16th or 17th. It was whichever one was a Thursday. Yep. So May 1st, I dove in on May 1st for Mental Health Awareness Month, and it ended on June 16th or 17th, whichever one is a Thursday. I finished on about, I think, 11 a.m.
You speak now, you're doing coaching, you talk to athletes, business people. What is the top 2 or 3 things that you're sharing from your lesson?
Top 2 or 3, I would say that the mental fortitude and the mental mindset that to get these things done is absolutely paramount, that a lot of programs do not focus on. And 2 is just being kind to yourself. That some days we can't be perfect. Not every training session is going to be, you know, the PR that you imagined it to be, but be kind to yourself. And, you know, I think that's what we beat ourselves up too much.
You're a badass motherfucker, and you seem like such a sweet, kind, gentle dude.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Such a amazing story. It's really quite. Is this the longest triathlon that anyone's ever done? It probably is. I don't know.
Longest continuous. From my research, I have found that there is one who went around the world, but there was gaps of, and this is not me like discrediting what he did because it's still amazing.
Yeah.
I respect it. There's a couple week breaks in between spots, like a week off in Mexico, a week off here. So,
sure.
You know,
what are you hoping to achieve next?
I'm going back to the Denny Stones. I said I was going to do something, and I'm going to do it. I think what we say, you know, I think we need to be from the book. What's the 4 agreements? We need to be. I can't remember with your word, but you know, I think when you say something, you need to do it. And I said,
you're going to do.
Yeah, I said 2 years ago I was going to do the Denny Stones, and now I'm going to do them. So I got that in the pipeline that I'm training for, and then there's a 250-mile race called Cocodona 250 that I kind of got brought into with my buddy Hector Rodriguez, who is kind of just another knucklehead like me out there who. He's who I talk to about business, and he's the business guy. He like gives me all these little tidbits of knowledge while we're running, and it's great, man. You sign up for a 7-day race with somebody like that, and like the amount of knowledge that you can pick from these people's brains that you run with is exponential. So it's cool. It's kind of like a meeting of minds, like a mastermind group, while suffering 250 miles. So that's out in May 1st. That is my plan. So May 1st is Cocodona 250, and then Denny Stones this August.
Dude, what a story, man. Such an inspiration. You know, I think it's really a powerful thing to hit the pavement and to teach your body and mind how to suffer. Because I think in business, in life, in relationships, I mean, things are tough. The world is tough. Life can be tough.
Yeah.
And to build that resilience and those neural pathways to, you know, have that endurance, and that it's just so powerful. So I love it. It seems like it's programmed in you, and it just sounds so natural. I can't imagine it is. I'm sure there's a lot of work and mental energy that's spent on that, but I just honor you for that, and keep striving, brother. I love it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I think when we choose to do these voluntary things, like voluntarily suffering makes the involuntary suffering a whole lot easier. You know, you put yourself into the grinder, you're going to come out a tougher person. And when these real world life things happen, you're going to be ready for it.
So true, man. For you, Justin, what does it mean to live a rich life?
Oh, man. I could say just to be happy, but it sounds really cliche. I would say to just always give back to other people. I know what it's like to not have anybody there for you. So all I try to do to lead my richest life is by always being there for anybody. My phone is always on. Messages are always open. Like anybody needs someone at any time of the day, like I'm there. If any which way, shape, or form I can be, because I know what it's like, and it's a very, very dark and lonely world when you're by yourself. So as long as I can be that person for anybody, like, I'm the richest dude alive.
You know what's really fun about following guys like you, and I found a lot of power in Instagram or social media in general can be really powerful, and it can be really terrible, right?
Yeah.
And what I love about following guys like you or David Goggins or whatever is, and you said this earlier, is like when you're not feeling motivated or you're not feeling like you can do it, or you want to go bang out a 10-mile run, like, and you watch what you're doing and you're like, F it, man, let's just do it and let's just power through it. And listening to you guys while you're doing it just gives you so much horsepower, and then you're on to the next thing and, climbing that next hill or whatever. So I just really honor you for all the content you're putting out and all the races you're doing for yourself and others, and people observing and watching are getting so much from it. So if people want to follow you or get in touch with you, what's the best way to connect?
Through Instagram, which my handle is The Real Justin True, or through my website, which is justintrueofficial.com.
Yeah, and the website's great. You got a lot of good programs there, so I really encourage the audience to follow and check Justin out. Mr. True, it's a real honor, and really excited for whatever you're doing next. And I appreciate you being here today, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you just taking your time to talk to me. I love it. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, man.